Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Alex. I'm going to make this really short and sweet so that I don't not let any of Jill's time. She's the real speaker here. So Jill Ratliff is president and CEO of the Empowerhouse Leadership Consultancy, which is a consulting firm that specializes in really strengthening your own inner, freedom around kind of, I like to call it the change before the change. So you can't even really go in and negotiate anything until you've changed your own mindset, right? So she specializes in that, but she spent over 20 years in different industries and in very senior leadership positions, coaching cultures, people, organizations, and so now she's dedicated fully to growing individuals and finding their own personal power. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Don't y'all love that little golf clap thing? Like I'm gonna whip y'all out of that and get you up, woo! Because it's your life, right? I mean, this is your life. So tonight I really want to make this, you notice the seating arrangement here, and thank you, all of my front row people, for doing that. I really appreciate it very much. And we're really I'm trying to create just a sense here of us, that we're just a group of women and a few super cool men who, are brave enough to join a women's meeting or observe it. So I want to create a sense that we're having a dialogue and we're just talking. And, obviously I have prepared remarks. I have some things I want to share with you, that I hope will help you and will help you move your life forward. But I'm willing to throw them all out and just talk if something comes up. So just so you know, I'm flexible. So we'll go down this path and we'll see where it takes us. And if you have a thought or you're not, drinking the Kool-Aid I'm delivering, you can raise your hand and tell me so. And let's talk about it. And let's kind of see where we can get to, because you're all here. And by the way, congratulations for that, for being here. But you're all here because you're interested in your own development, right? Am I on? And I'll tell you right out of the gate, congratulations for that, because that's step one. If you don't care about your own development, and if you don't step up and step into it, what do you think's going to happen right out there, right? And it's not going to happen. So kudos to all of you for being here for that. I'd like to start with, so why am I here? Because they're paying me a lot of money? Not. It's not why I'm here. I'm here because my purpose in life is to help people, women in particular. I have a soft spot for women. Again, no disregard to my men. I have a lot of men in my life I love. I have a husband and a son and a dad and a lot of really cool men. But I have a soft spot for helping women develop their full potential at work and in their life. I want you to operate with more freedom, more love, frankly, more success, and I want you to have impact in what you're trying to do. Now, where does this come from, and why did this purpose choose me? And I'll tell you why it chose me is because that's what I want. I remember when I figured out that I want it all. I do, and I'm the first one here to stand up and admit it. I want to be a great wife. I want to be an awesome mother. My daughter is here today, so she'll have to take you offline outside and tell you whether I'm succeeding at that or not. But I want to be, a great wife. I want to be an awesome mother. I want to have a kick-ass career, right? And I want to be active in my community. I want to be a great friend to my friends. I freaking want it all. And the reality of that is there was a point in time in my life when I just thought, don't know if that's possible. Have you ever had that thought yourself? Like, really? I'm a quote person. I know anybody here under the age of 35 probably is too, because Pinterest got developed in your lifetimes. But a lot of us well over the age of 35 has adopted the Pinterest habit and the quote habit. And I'll tell you, I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. Anybody can relate to that? Raise your hand if you've picked that quote out. Gandhi. Are we all Gandhi followers? Right? Well, what if you can't even be the change you want to see in your day, right? The change you want to be in the world is a leap too far. It's a leap too far. We got to start somewhere before we can get there. How about this one? Live in the moment. One of my favorites. Live in the moment. Anybody heard that? Anybody aspired to that? Well, I'm telling you, most people's moments are not moments they aspire to live in any longer than they have to, right? So, you know, what happens is we're in the real world. And by the way, you think it hasn't gotten harder? You think that technology, God bless the technologists, haven't amped up our lives? Do any of you really have an hour off of work where you don't get texts at 4 freaking o'clock in the morning and you feel compelled to do what? Respond, right? It's insane. So what happens is we get to the end of the week and we are what? Overwhelmed. Thank you. Exhausted, overwhelmed, overworked, depleted. So what do? We go into the weekend and we figure out how to renew ourselves, right? So what do? We meditate, we medicate. By the way, my medication of choice is a really good glass of wine. So you all may have a sip of that. We meditate, we medicate, we do yoga, we do bar classes, we run, we go to the mountains, my daughter's favorite, breathe in a lot of fresh air. We do a lot of things that, by the way, are wildly healthy, right? And supportive for us in our lifestyles. That being said, what happens Monday morning at fill in the time when your alarm clock goes off? And maybe even before Monday morning. What happens Sunday night when you start thinking about Monday morning? Where do you go, right? Where do you go? Where's your neurology go? Where's your head go? Where do your thoughts go? I will tell you where most people do. They go into stress. And then you wake up Monday morning and you go, I knew this was coming. So you get up early. If you're me, you get in the jacuzzi, right, for 15 minutes. You know, you do a little breathing. You know, you are so zen. You go have your herb tea and you're like, bring the day on, right? You're ready to go. Then you get in your car and you pull out onto Peachtree Road and somebody T-bones your car. Have we all been there? You're not going to meditate your way out of that, folks. You're not going to sit there and go, hold off, I'm not going to call the police, I'm going to center myself, right? It just doesn't happen. So make no mistake, I'm a huge fan of all of those things. I call it take the day off. And I'm a big fan of learning how to take the day off. However, it's not enough. It's not enough because Monday morning comes and then, by the way, if you get through the car accident and you get to the office and you've regrouped yourself because it wasn't your fault and the insurance company's going to pay for it anyway and you wanted a new car and all the stories you tell yourself about why that's okay, then you get to the office and you're like, good, I got it. Then you get a phone call from the client who is what? Pissed off. And you're off to the races, right? And then your day goes like that, up, down, up, down. Oh, you're having a birthday lunch with your best friend. So excited. You go out, right? You have such a good time. She talks to you. You guys go, oh my gosh, life. And then you buoy yourself up and you go back into work. As soon as you're back at your desk, somebody says, hey, the boss wants to see you. What, right? What happens to every fiber of your being, right? You make up a story. We'll talk about making up stories in a second. You make up a story. So this is the way our lives roll, right? This is the way we go. And at some point, it occurred to me, like, what the heck? There has to be a better way. So let me pause. I'm going to hit the pause button right now and tell you a personal story about really how I came to be here tonight talking about this. So my partner is in the back of the room. Raise your hand, Jill, Dr. Jill Kahn. So Dr. Jill Kahn and I have known each other 20 years, but we knew each other in a capacity as friends and neighbors. Our sons grew up together. Over the years, 20, 30 years ago, how long ago, Jill? I don't know, 25 years ago, we were friends. Our husbands coached T-ball together. And I knew that Jill had gone through a crisis in her life with her husband, Danny, at a really young age, 34-ish, getting diagnosed with a very advanced form of brain cancer, incurable. Jill and Danny went through quite a journey with that, and the outcome of that is, so that y'all can breathe, it's 20-some years later, Danny's alive and well, so he's doing good. He's got a dormant tumor in his brain, and so what that journey led Jill to is working with people, and she spent 4 years of her life helping her husband heal from what she was told was an inoperable, unhealable cancer. So that led her into a journey of helping people who face life crisis, cancer in particular, to know how to empower themselves in whatever crisis comes their way. So fast forward many, many, many years later, 20, 21, 22, many years later, which is 4 years ago, I find out that my younger brother has a very, very aggressive form of cancer, what they call a hypergrade sarcoma. Younger brother, right? Not that matters, right? Father, mother, doesn't matter. And how many of you have been touched by that journey in your life or someone you love? We all have, right? So I'm a very, like all of you in the room, and you wouldn't be here if you weren't this person, I'm a type A, kick-ass, take names, got this kind of person, right? And I didn't have this, right? I didn't know what to do. So I called Jill up. I said, oh my gosh, can you see me? Really hadn't seen her in years. I go over to her house, as gracious as she is. She says, sit down and tell me what's going on. I tell her the story, and she looks right at me, and she says, Jill, I'll help your brother if he needs my help. But you know what? I think I could really help you. What do you think my reaction to that was? Moi, I'm good. I'm fine. I don't need help. And she looked right at me in her ever calm way, and she said, Jill, you are in no position to help your brother in the state and condition that you are in right now. So let's start with you. That led to several weeks of working with Jill to understand what is it, this thing she does? What is this work she does? And when we got done doing that work, at the end, not even done, by the way, this went on for months, but at the end of a couple of weeks, I said, Jill, oh my gosh, everybody needs to know this. Everybody needs to know how to meet life when life pushes against you. And she looks at me again with this quizzical look on her face and said, of course. Like, I knew that. So what was fascinating, though, is from there I began to talk to her about leadership development work and how we do leadership development work and how we do leadership coaching in my world. And again, she looked at me and said, wow, your leadership development needs some development. So that was the start of our journey. And you know, from there, what we really sort of got into is converting this work into something that the average person in their average life with their real life challenges, let's forget about massive life crisis, because Jill's comment was, crisis happens at such a small percentage of our life. Most of our life we bleed out in the everyday things. We let ourselves get depleted in the everyday stuff. And so if we know what we want, right? If I asked you, what do you want? Y'all could tell me, right? What do you want? Health, happiness, a good career, to be loved and appreciated, to have a career that's meaningful to you, to give back in the world, to be a part of something greater than yourself. Does this resonate with everybody in the room? Right? Raise your hand. I'm signing up, right? So we know what we want, and we know what our complaint sheet is, right? I just went through that a few minutes ago, right? What's our complaint sheet? I'm overworked, I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, and that person pisses me off. My boss is a jerk. You know, my coworker doesn't get it. My children, oh my God, they're not my offspring. Surely somebody else gave birth to them. Definitely not talking about her. So we've got this disconnect. We call it a disconnect, right? We know what we want. We know what we don't want, but we're stuck. We don't know how to get what we want from where we are. There aren't enough real life, real time tools. Does that make sense to everybody? So we have a different philosophy at Empowerhouse, right? We say life isn't going to get easier. It's not. Guess what? All the strategies you're all building, I'm going to talk to my daughter about strategies, all the strategies we build to make sure something's not going to go wrong, something's not going to happen, what happens to those strategies? They're not worth the paper you printed them on, right? So what we believe at Empowerhouse is life's not getting easier. You have to get stronger in it so that it seems easier. So think of it this way. You're an athlete, and somebody tells you, and you think you're pretty decent, and somebody takes you to a massive obstacle course, and they say they're going to time you. And you have to do all these crazy things, and you have to scale this 15-foot wall, and you're pissed off, right? You start going, you go, this is impossible. I can't do this. Well, then you take an Olympian obstacle course athlete, and what happens? Right, they go, piece of cake. In fact, they want to do it. They're like, time me, go ahead, right? So that's the concept. The concept is not thinking life's going to get easier, and that if you put enough strategies in place, or you take the day off often enough, or you do enough yoga, that somehow life's going to quit coming at you. It isn't. What you have to do is get stronger in it. You have to meet life, what we call take the day on, so that what pushes against you in life every day, all day, feels like a breeze. Doesn't feel hard to you anymore because you've built some muscles you didn't have. So that's the overall concept, and that's where we're going to go. We're good with that? I want to make all of you tonight the beginning of being Olympians in your own life. And I'm going to give you a couple ideas, like what I call big ideas, big concepts that you can grab, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you can practice around those couple big ideas. And if we spend all day together, I'd give you a bunch more. So this is like designed to sort of make you want to be an Olympian and want to go to the next step. But I want you to go out of here, because to me, if you don't go out of here with something you can do tomorrow, then this is brain candy. Does that make sense to all of you? Like, how many times have you guys gone and heard a great speaker and you get all fired up and you're inspired? Well, what I tell you is inspiration promises you nothing, right, other than inspiration. If you don't know what to do with that information, if you can't go out tomorrow and do something with that, then all I've done is entertain you for a night. And I like that idea, you can tell probably, but it's not going to help you. So I want to give you a couple things you can take away. So first thing I have to say is this is going to require you, likely, to open your mind to a new way of thinking, a way that perhaps you haven't thought before or nobody's ever exposed you to before. So let's start with the concept that you have to have a new way of thinking. Because, and I'll say this to, I love this thought of saying this to a group of architects, because you'll get this right away. When you reframe the way you see things, the things you see begin to change and new possibilities open up. Does that make sense to all of you, right? Because you all are all about that. You're all about reframing how something is experienced by people and having people go, oh, never looked at it that way, never felt that way. So that's what we're working on here. I'm going to give you 3 big ideas that will cause you to maybe reframe the way you're looking at something. And then I'm going to tell you what is the practice that goes with that you can take out of here tonight and start doing in your life. Good? So the first one is called behavioral intelligence. And this is what our practice is really built around. So I'm going to read you the definition of behavioral intelligence. Okay? It is the ability to consciously choose empowered behaviors regardless of the difficulty of the situation. It's the ability to consciously choose empowered behaviors. It's about your conduct, right? It's like what you choose to do regardless of the difficulty of the situation. So that's the first big idea you have to get your head around, your arms around. So it's not like EQ, it's not like IQ. It's not a measure of something you already have. You with me? This is a practice. This is a muscle you build. This is something that it doesn't matter where your starting point is. It doesn't matter. You can take it from wherever you are and you can grow from there. And you can build your behavioral intelligence. Good? Of course, for a bunch of architects, I already know you're sort of breathing well, because we're not going to diminish IQ at all, right? Because there's a huge value in that. So why do we need this? Like, why would behavioral intelligence, why would this concept contribute to all of our lives, and particularly work? Let me put it this way. When you go to work every day, do you see conduct? Do you see behaviors that do not serve the person well, or the environment well, or the team well, and most importantly, the mission of your company well, right? It's like people, at the same time, people mean so well, don't they? Like, it's not like people aren't trying. Now, there are a few like really out there, like really lost, really asleep people who really don't get it. And we all know, like, there's a bell curve everywhere. There's a bell curve in everything. But generally speaking, we're not trying to create that environment, but it is the environment we have. It's very toxic, it's very exhausting, it's very overwhelming, and a lot of good people who are, by the way, really, really smart, have really high IQs, and trust me, I work with them. I work with CEOs, I work with SVPs, I work with leaders who have taken on wildly tough challenges, and yet they still don't get this. So it's not about that. It's really about creating a work environment where you like to go to work every day, where you get up in the morning or Sunday night and you don't have a pit in your stomach. And by the way, back to my mission, my personal vision, it's not just about at work. It's about wanting to go home at night and being excited to see those crazy kids and that husband who sometimes you want to shoot in the head, but most of the time you love. It's about wanting that. It's about feeling great about that, and it's about feeling your ability to do that and to navigate that with grace, with sophistication, with confidence, and more important than anything else, with skills, because these are teachable skills. And that's not something we got. So how did we end up in this, how did we end up in this gap? By the way, I want to go touch on this. It's because we were homeschooled. Were you taught what to do when life doesn't go the way you want it to? Any of you? How were we taught? By our parents, maybe? Let me tell you my mom's strategy. You crying? I'll give you something to cry about. That was my mom's strategy. Right? Right? That was it, man. That was my strategy for when things didn't go the way I wanted them to. So how do you think that's going to work at work? When you go into a meeting and like your colleagues whine, stop your whining. You want to whine? I'll give you something to whine about. Think that strategy is going to work too well in the environment? It's not going to work too well. So we need this concept, right, of behavioral intelligence. We need to know how to meet these situations that push against us regardless of what he said, she said, they're doing, they're not doing, your boss did, he didn't do, your husband did, he didn't do. Like, you have to be empowered regardless of that situation. Make sense? And what you're going to find, by the way, I'll give you a little foreshadowing, if you start practicing things, you will find that dysfunctional behavior will yield to functional behavior every time over time. If you practice being functional no matter what, dysfunctional people like magic will yield. Does that make sense to all of you intuitively why that would be true? The problem is we don't have enough mirrors of functional behavior. So we have dysfunction bouncing off of dysfunction all over the place, and there's no mirror for what functional behavior looks like because we don't have this notion of behavioral intelligence. Good? So Jill Bolte Taylor, did y'all ever hear of her? Does anybody read her book? She's a neuroscientist who had a brain stroke. She lost all use of her brain on the left side. No left brain. For a lot of you in the room, you're going, ah! Can't imagine life with no left brain. No left brain. She only had a right brain. Her book's fascinating, by the way. And one of the things she said is when she woke up and was conscious, she still had no use of her left brain. Fascinating for a neuroscientist, by the way. And her book's hilarious because she's like my scientist self is going, wow, this is so cool. I don't know how many, so it's kind of interesting. But she said when she only had use of her right brain, she could feel somebody come into the room. She could tell what kind of mood they were in. She could tell what kind of energy they brought in the room. So one of her punchlines of her book is be responsible for the energy you bring into a room. It's kind of fascinating, right? So this, tying to that, one of the practices that I'll give you tonight that's simple is be the fragrance in any room you go into, right? Be who you are, your best and highest self, no matter what's going on in the room you walk into. No matter what's happening, you go in as who you know you are, you go out as who you know you are. When you enter the room, you bring the fragrance in. When you exit the room, you take the fragrance out. You don't go in and become, the manure that's going on in the mess of the meeting. So it's a simple concept, but if you practice it, that alone is going to start you on this path. Does that make sense to everybody? And then there's other tools you can imagine that have to support that. So that's one. That's the first concept. Second concept, and again, remembering we said that we know what we want. We don't know how to get it, and this is a new way of thinking, right? So this is the concept. Life is always in your favor. Life is, operative word, always in your favor, if you know what to do. Now, a lot of people look at me and go, bull, right? Because things happen that don't feel like they're in our favor. So the first idea behind this concept that you have to grab is that you are responsible for your life, period. Right? Why? Here's a news flash. You, in fact, are powerless to change the behavior of anyone else. Do we believe that by our conduct? Do we act all the time like we can get somebody else to do if, when, then, if, then, when, then? If they did this differently, then I could finally be happy. If he only said it right, if she could only understand what I'm trying to say. We give our power away. We bleed it out on a concept, on a formula in life that's impossible. You are powerless to change anyone else's conduct or behavior but your own. So you got to buy that concept. You got to buy that Kool-Aid. So let me try to convert that into something that you go, ridiculous, impossible, cannot do that. Right? So let me try to see if I can get you there, see if I can get you to drink a little of my Kool-Aid here. Here's the thought. When life pushes against you, he makes me crazy, this happened, my car got hit. Whenever life pushes against you, let's just say, how could that help me? What could this pain point coming at me possibly teach me about how I could get stronger? Does that make sense? To have you guys with me. Now, I'm not suggesting right now you know what to do with that information. I'm just saying, can you grasp the idea that if you could, one, take responsibility for your life, period, whether he said, she said, doesn't matter, you got sick, you didn't get sick, you got the job, you didn't get the job, like whatever, you still are responsible for what you make out of your life. And if, in fact, your life talks to you all day, every day, and it talks to you in pain, just like your body does. When you get a pain in your body, what generally is going on? Somebody?
There's an emotion of some sort.
Something's wrong.
Dis-ease.
There's something wrong, right? It's like when your light goes off in your car in your gas tank, the light goes off. Why does it go off? Why does the light go off? It's to tell you, yo, dude, you're running out of gas. When you get sick, when something happens to you, when something pushes against you, that's here to show you how you can grow, how you can get stronger, what you need to look at. So a simple way that my partner back there talks about it is she says, you're a lemon. Like when you squeeze a lemon, what comes out? Lemon juice, right? So when something pushes against you, what comes out of you is what's in you. Whatever capacity you have to meet that challenge is what comes out. And what happens sometimes with our capacity? Right? It's in the toilet. So if you can grab this concept that life is here to, that the pain in the day moments you have, the pain in the ass people, the things that happen to you are actually your life showing you your opportunity to grow and get stronger. That's a total turnaround concept, right? That's why I said it's a new way of thinking. You got to change the way you look at these situations, first of all, before you can take action against them, before you can empower yourself in a world like that. So example is you come home from work, your children are driving you crazy, everybody's driving you crazy. You know, is that the children? Are children who scream and don't do their homework and make challenges for you as a mom, is something wrong with your kids? Right? No, of course not. They're kids, right? They're kids, you're the adult. You have to own you're crazy. You have to see that you're, she's laughing, right? Yeah, because we let them make us crazy rather than the other way around. You have to be able to see that your frustration is no more than a lack of patience. You do not have a patience muscle big enough to deal with crazy kids at home. Forget about some way more tough stuff life's going to throw at you, right? So this concept here is an idea that notice what pushes against you emotionally. Notice if you're prone to frustration. If you're prone to frustration, frustration is simply a lack of patience. It's a weakness of a patience muscle. My personal favorite in my life was worry. I'm looking at my daughter again. She grew up with this. I wish I would have learned this. She wishes I would have learned this way sooner than I did in life. But I was a worrier, like worry, obsessive worry. You know, if she didn't call by a certain time, if my husband didn't call by a certain time, I mean, I had her in the ditch, off the road, you know, the hospital, right? Some of you are nodding. My worry cohorts are all nodding with me. But what is worry? Worry is a weakness of your trust muscle. Concept you can grab? If you trusted life more and you more, and the things that we all say we have faith in more, worry would dissipate from your life. And trust me, if I could be someone who turned worry into trust, anybody can do it, because I was the queen of worry. And what's really remarkable is it doesn't take that long. You think this takes years? It takes weeks when you practice trust. And it's that simple. So when you figure out what your dominant weakness is, whether it's frustration or worry or judgment or whatever it is you do, whatever your favorite weak muscle is, when you catch yourself, simply say to yourself, practice the opposite. If I'm super frustrated right now, practice patience. That's all you got to do. Then go right on with what you're doing. It takes that long. And if 10 minutes later you're frustrated again, you go, there's that habit, practice patience. That's it. That's all you do. So this is something you all can go away. We call it catching fish. You can all go away and practice this. Just pick that thing, your favorite weakness, and just tell yourself, practice the opposite, and watch what happens in your life over the next several weeks and months. Okay, so next concept. Oh, by the way, I'll tell you this. This whole idea and why I'm giving you a practice with each one of these is because we have been conditioned as people like helium-filled balloons. I have a problem. Let me go to somebody who's going to blow helium into my life, float me up to this big thing. You're laughing over there, Allison, right? Float me up to this big thing. I'm going to rise above my problems. The only problem wrong with that strategy is it takes one pinprick to pop you, and you're right back where you were. And not only are you back where you were, but you're worse off. Because now you're pissed at yourself because you know better, but you couldn't do better. So this idea of a practice is like wrapping a ball of yarn. It's one thought at a time, one behavior at a time, one situation at a time, one decision to exercise behavioral intelligence at a time. One simple wrap at a time. But over time, that ball of yarn becomes so dense that you can stick 20 pins in it and it's not popping because it's not filled with air. It's filled with muscle that you've built to take you through your life. Does that make sense? Y'all buying that? All right, so the last concept I'll share with you that you can take away, and you guys are going to love this because we all love looking at human nature. I call it the human operating system and going, that's me. And I'm like, yeah, duh, that's all of us. And the topic of this is the story in your head. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about, right? The story in your head. Do you know that psychologists have proven that we have, on average, 50 to 75,000 thoughts a day? My partner says, oh, not me, I have 1 million. Right? 50 to 75,000 thoughts a day. Now, here's the kicker, and I literally mean kicker. 60 to 70% of them are what? Negative. See, I told you, your IQs are up there. Negative, they're negative. You know, that dialogue runs in our head all day long. Yap, 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 yap. If somebody hooked up a machine to us and it was going to record on your laptop or your iPad every thought you had, and you had to read that at night, would you want to kill yourself? We would all be put in the insane asylum for the thoughts we have. Further, if your best friend talked to you the way you talk to yourself, what would you do? Get a new best friend. Are you kidding? There's no way I would take that from my best friend, right? So this story in your head idea is something we got to get our arms around, because what we all know but we don't know consciously is, you might want to write this down because this is just really a truth. Thoughts lie. We think our thoughts are true. Do we not? Right? We make up stories, right? I would, Danielle's in college and she's driving to Savannah somewhere to go to some frat party, and she's, oh yeah, no, we're not leaving Atlanta till 11 p.m. I'm like, oh, right, okay, great, as a mom. So you're going to get there when? Oh, 3 a.m. Okay, well, text me when you get there. Well, 3 a.m. comes and goes, 4 a.m. comes and goes, because what? She gets there, she's dead tired, she's gone to bed. She's not going to text her mother. So I'm like, so the story in my head is car accident on I-25, her cell phone flew and got crushed. They couldn't find her purse. There's no identification on her. It takes a while to get the fingerprints, right? It's just like, right? We tell ourselves a story in our head.
It's definitely not at a bar.
Not at a bar. We tell ourselves a story in our head, and then we think that that's true. Does our bodies not react to that story in our head as if it's true? The guy, for you young ladies in the room that aren't married, the guy who didn't call you back. Do you know you have a whole story made up about that? Then you find out he's like dead out with a cold, he can't even talk, and then he comes together a week later and goes, oh, I'm so sorry, and he calls you. And in the meantime, you spent a week doing what? Making yourself crazy. You didn't get the promotion at work. Oh my God, I better get my resume out. They don't like me. I'm not going to write the stories in our head. So the bottom line to remember here is that the longer the story lingers, the weaker you become. The longer the story lingers, the weaker you become. And since you're making up stories anyway, and we are making them all up because thoughts lie, they don't serve us well. We already eat the monkey. You know, half of what they say is not true. So we have to, one, learn to separate, okay, is this a fact or is this like a story? And you know how you can tell an intuition, something that you get a gut feel about, which is a voice in your head, but it's really good for you? Do you know how to tell the difference? It's good for you. Stories in your thoughts that lie to you are the stuff that doesn't serve you, not good for you. So the first thing, so here's the practice that I'll give you. You have to stop the story. So step one, notice the story. And again, the stories, I'm talking about, you know, the stories that come up when something doesn't go according to plan. The stories that come up when you're making yourself weak. The stories that break you down, right? The stories that are the panic, whenever. So first thing you have to do is go, first of all, bet you're going to notice when you do this that your stories are familiar, right? They're habits. You've been doing them your whole life probably. So first go, old friend, I know you. You know, I know this story. I've heard this story before. We're okay. Stop the story. Move your thoughts to something that serves you. Call a friend. Watch a funny movie. Read a book that inspires you. Listen to some music. Like, stop the story. And you know what? The story may start up again in 15 minutes, and then what are you going to do in 15 minutes? Stop the story. Because you got to stop the story and rewrite the story in your favor. Because why? We're making it up anyway. So make it up in your favor. And when something comes at you that's not a story, trust me, you're going to know. It's going to be fact-based, right? You lost your job. That's not a story, right? Somebody fires you, that's not a story, right? Now you're into a different skill, right? Now you're into a skill, and we'll talk about that, which is everything's here to, we talked about this in the beginning, everything's in your favor. So the first thing you're going to say is, there's obviously a better job for me I'm meant to be in. That's the first thought you're going to have, because you're going to go back to, see, number one, everything in life is here to serve you. It's in your favor, right? So that's a different practice. So you're going to stop the story. You're going to bring the attention back to yourself. You're going to realize that that's stinking thinking that got you there. And you're just going to practice. And you can practice it in that best. This is not something you have to go get the 3-ring binder out. You don't have to go get your manual. You don't have to go read your Deepak Chopra book and it's in chapter 6, you know, page 269. This is just something you're just going to do in real time on the spot. Good? Is that something you feel like you could practice going out of here? Awesome. So I don't know where I'm on time. Am I good?
Okay, like 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
About 3 to 5.
Perfect. You're about to give me the 5. Y'all can imagine I'm notoriously bad at staying on time when I speak because, you know, I love the topic and I think, you know, for me in my life, this work has made such a difference. And we brought this work, Jill Kahn and I, into my company before I left Assurant. It's a $2 billion, 8,000 person specialty insurance company. You know, not the world you guys live in. I'm hitting the rewind button going, why wasn't I an architect? This looks like so much more fun than what I've been doing. But we brought this work in, and what you find is Harvard MBA 45, 50, 60-year-old people don't know this stuff. They're killing themselves every day, and they're killing their people because the strategies we're trying to use on the human operating system, like the strategies we use in technology, the strategies we use in finance, the strategies we use in marketing, don't actually work on people because we run on different software. And yet we don't really know that software very well because we were homeschooled. Mother, father, sister, brother, teacher, preacher, coach. You learned one way, you learned one way, you learned one way. Add to that cultural differences. You were raised in another country, you speak a different language. Add men and women to that. It's an unbelievable miracle that we don't blow each other up every day, all the time. And in fact, my hypothesis is a lot of us do. So if we could learn how to navigate our differences by taking responsibility for our lives only, by learning some tools and strategies that allow us to change our conduct, become behaviorally intelligent, whether or not the other person gets it or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they know what you're doing or not doing. All they're going to notice is, wow, she's got it together. Like, I can't believe she's not reacting. You know, I can't believe she's not screaming at me. You know, people are going to start noticing that you're a rock, and it takes a lot to knock you off your game. And that is great power and empowerment. And really why I do this is because this is what I wanted in my own life. I wanted to be able to live my life every day. I want to get up and breathe. I want to do work I love. I want to hang out with people I like. I want to help other people grow and get stronger and have a life they love too. Because you know what? We have no promises. You don't know how long you get to do this. And all of you have probably read the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, right? It's not rocket scientist. Wow, I wish I would have done what I wanted to do with my life and not what other people told me. Wow, I wish I would have had more fun and worked less hard. These are all things that are predictable if you read that book. It'll wake you up. So this tool, though, these skills, we were not taught. If we were, and one of the things Dr. Jill and I want to do is we want to bring this work to children through a nonprofit. Because if we were taught this work, we would have a whole lot more functional adults running around, and we wouldn't be making ourselves and each other so crazy. So I greatly, greatly appreciate being invited here tonight and having the chance to share this work with you, because it is my life's work. It is what I love and what I care about. And oh, by the way, the work is never done. Again, you know, anybody that knows me can tell you I don't get it right every day. Life pushes against me too. But what I am able to do is rapid rebound way, way faster, you know, than I ever imagined that I could. And I do feel like, you know, I'm living the life that I always wanted to live now. And I want other people to be a whole lot faster than I was. I would love for people to get this way before age of close to 60 at this point for me. Now, I plan to be around for another 40 years to take full advantage of it. But I wouldn't have minded learning a little sooner some of the things I know now. So thank you so very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it. And I don't know who I'm turning it over to.
You guys have any questions?
Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions,
Yeah,
thoughts.
okay.
Ah,
Do you see any big differences between the different age groups, the millennials, the Xers, the boomers?
on this regard,
Yeah.
none. Absolutely none. You know, I have, again, people that are my age that are 60, and I teach this too, and I have, you know, my daughter's, you know, gets to be you can imagine how much I
Got her at 4 a.m. from Japan 2 weeks ago, and she had to like talk me off the ledge. Not any smarter.
like, okay, honey, what is your self-talk right now? What is going on in your head, right? So, no, I found, and by the way, and Jill, you could you work with children, you know, and how young do they get this?
Oh, absolutely. It's always you to you. And, you know, when you talk about truth and you talk about, like, what the real manual is, it's very easy to adjust to it. So anybody at any age or stage has the ability to make their life better.
Yeah, we always say, did you get your best life manual when you were born? No. Well, we want to create the best life manual and start giving it to people so we can learn some of these things. And one of the things we did is we went in and we took the tools that we've developed and we took them into my company, and we started doing team-based work. And what's fascinating is we tell people this isn't about you guys with each other. It's each of you individually. You're just going to do the work, but we're going to teach you in a group because it's more cost effective if we teach you this way than one-on-one. Well, the wild byproduct that frankly you would think I would have seen coming, because I've been a head of HR for 30 years, you would think I would have figured this out. But what happened is an unintended consequence of the work was people started seeing each other as human beings, not as coworkers. They started saying, wow, I was working on this and this situation happened, and they use home examples, they use kid examples, they use work examples. And when they started watching each other try to struggle with these situations and then apply these tools, they were cheering each other on. It was like contagious. The culture got better, and we really went at this as this is autonomous work, this is you on you. We didn't really set about to say, wow, this could change a culture. But that's what we started learning, is that this work can change a culture. But we don't set it up that way. We don't set up any condition of this work of you to you, you to you. The team owes the team something. We didn't go in that door at all. It just happened organically because people started seeing each other as, we're all pissed off, we're all tired, we're all overwhelmed. Like, it's not just me, it's not just you and most of us, minus a small percentage, are trying to do better. We just don't know how. We're just not succeeding at it.
So, as a classic type A,
Right.
how do you stop your fruitless pursuit of perfection without not achieving your best? I mean, I think we all feel like we have to work constantly, we have to work overtime in order to be the best we can possibly be. Because the worst thing somebody could do is accuse me of not working hard enough.
Right. I'm so smiling because I'm looking at my oh so lovely daughter again, right? Who sat on a stoop in our garage when she was 3 for 2.5 hours because she was not getting up until she learned to tie her shoe. I'm like, honey, have a sandwich. So this perfectionism thing starts really young. Jill, I'm going to let you take that one.
You know, it's interesting because like when we think about perfection, you know, like really, have you ever got it right? You know, is it really about perfection or is it about being hard on yourself as you're learning how to get towards whatever it is, that goal or that big idea that you're trying to accomplish? You know, I found with behavioral intelligence, it's not about an end goal, it's about being kind to yourself and praising yourself along the way and noticing what you did do, not what you didn't do. And when you change the way you see that, you know, it's amazing how encouraging and kind you can be to yourself. Because when you look back in time, you see how far you've come, not how far you need to go.
And by the way, you can't be kind to other people, newsflash, if you can't be kind to yourself. Right? We all know that. Y'all read all the psych books, projection, you know, blah, blah, all the psycho stuff, right? But the truth of it just is you got to start with you. I call it start close in. Like, start with you first. Like, and as you get kinder with yourself, as you allow yourself, you know, time to learn, as you miss it, when you blow up at your kids and then you realize later that night, oh God, you know, I missed it. So what? I promise you, hang out another hour, you'll get another chance. Doesn't matter if you miss it or you catch it. Like I'm encouraging you guys to do this work. It doesn't matter if you go in the room and you stink it up. Then you come out and you go, oh, I wasn't the fragrance. So what? You're going to go in another room in 10 minutes and it's going to stink in there too. So you can practice then. It doesn't matter. You just keep working it, like keep thinking of the yarn rather than the helium-filled balloon. No quick fixes. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself time to learn. And more than anything else, it's a skill, you guys. You're not born this way. It's a skill. It's a practice you can develop. And when, just like if you went to the gym every day, do you think you would get stronger? Yeah. If you ran, do you think your aerobic conditioning would get better? Of course it would. So it's just a practice like anything else. Helpful? A little bit. Great. Let's turn it over to you. Thanks again, guys.
Just quickly again, I'm Ashley and I'm with Hayward.